Happy Halloween, everybody. We've got a special for you today. This is the second series in the LGT Interviews with the PURETIDE program. And today I have my lovely guest, Zorro, from over the seas in France. How you doing, Zorro? You good?
Hi everyone, it's all good and you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, mate. Just a little bit tired after the team's event that I've just come back from at the weekend at the Battle of the Britain. How about you? What have you been up to lately?
So recently it has been more about team preparation because as you know, I'm currently working on the team events coming for WTC at my regional level.
Yeah,
So that's my actuality at the moment.
nice. So, we're going to celebrate some successes, aren't we? We're going to have a look at the LGT performance. We're going to kind of go through your rounds and obviously how this event was quite a big one for you, and
Oh
but
yeah.
really, really big one and the first experience. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit more in detail about your kind of pairings, your matchups, some of the decisions that you kind of made, whether you went tactical, fixed, the kind of some of the games, the matchups that you had, how you felt going in, and how you performed. But tell us a little bit about you then. How long have you been playing Tau for, buddy?
Oh, so long story short, Tau, I'm playing them, let's say, seriously since a bit more than a year now. Started during the ninth edition,
Hmm.
and only starting to go competitive really late in ninth edition.
So relatively new then, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So like, what got you into Tau then?
Okay, a really long story, and I will try to make it as short as it can be. As many people, I started with some Space Marines, Battle of Macrage, back to fourth edition. And when I started collecting, all my friends were going chaos, grimdark,
Yeah.
and something really sad into my eyes. And then I came into a Games Workshop, seeing all these battle suits that were looking shiny and modern and going fast. And the aesthetic really wanted me to go to and to stick to that faction. So I started to collect them, and then I tried a few games with them, and I just stopped because it was too demanding in terms of skill and practice. So I put them on the shelves for a bit, and then I start back in ninth edition with them, where I felt the move and the wish to play them again. And this is where the real story started, when I start to play them slightly better and understanding the mechanics of the faction, because 100% the aesthetic kept me in more than on any other faction in the game.
Yeah, because I mean now within the Pure Type program, you obviously display some of your beautiful models. So like kind of first, it kind of felt that like you wanted to kind of find a faction to get kind of into the competitive side of the game. But your hobby skill is really high. I know me and you have had a call with Izzy Sanchez and talked about the painting and the hobby side. So some of your painting that you do with the airbrush is absolutely phenomenal. And people, if you've not seen some of the pictures, there are these ghost kills. Just the whole army makes me kind of jealous. And I think you hate me because I keep getting you to paint models by changing the lists. But how do you, with the aesthetic that you said of the models, like what got you into the kind of the painting side of things?
So you may remember these models back in the days where having a railgun on the shoulders was something really impressive, you know. So the broadsides, when I was younger, really interested me. And then when I had enough money to start to buy them, one of the first few models I bought was the Riptide, because it's just the typical Gundam that you will instantly see into a Games Workshop. But as now, if I have to select a few models that I really like among others, with a bit more knowledge about the orange and everything that is available into the tower range, the gold skill is now my favorite. And I have to say I have, let's say, a crush for the tiny breachers, because they remain really interesting as a model, and I think that the kit is quite recent,
Yeah.
if I'm correct. So both our bigger models and the smaller one are really interesting to paint and to see on a battlefield.
Yeah, I'm saying you have your own Instagram Zorro painting. Yeah.
Yeah, guys. So be my guest. If you go on Instagram, Zor Painting, and you'll see some of my recent paint jobs. So feel free to have a look if you're interested in. Just if I want to comment on that, my approach on painting is how into a really limited time frame you can achieve interesting painting results because we all have a life to run outside of the hobby and outside of Warhammer, and many of us only have a few hours a week to deliver their army, and this is everything I do, going fast and delivering paint job that I like.
Yeah, you highlight. I think the top tower armies that I've seen in the past in terms of painting have really kind of gone for that kind of clean style, and I think you've got that kind of color composition, the shading, the darkness with the lights, and then the highlights perfectly. So you did put it on the best painting with LGT, but I think the other thing that let you down was not having a display board. And I think listening into a lot of painters, they know that it's not just about painting; you have to do the whole thing. So I think next time get a painting board done, and your painting will definitely deserve a medal, mate. So the other thing that I wanted to pick up on, and I will share your Instagram link in the description below. So for those of you who want to check it out, please click on the link below. Um, you mentioned that you shelved Tau because obviously something that wasn't quite working for you. What kind of challenges were you facing?
So put that in context. My friends are were all playing Chaos armies who loved close contact, if
Mm.
I can say. And constantly I had maybe one round of shooting before getting close, and I was really, let's say, a newbie in terms of gaming and all the whole movement is working and how you can avoid getting tagged, etc. And every single time my bigger assets were not delivering the punch they should because they had no time and not the range to do it. So it was a real struggle to see how I can both impact and get and gun down the resource of my opponent while keeping my assets alive for long enough to keep continuing and take the lead in the game.
Makes sense because I think a lot of challenges that people face with Tau at the beginning is that kind of if you're not going first when the enemy stages, you've got kind of one turn to kind of maneuver around that. And if you're going into aggressively, you just get picked apart, or your main assets are slowed down where you can't deliver the damage where you need to deliver it. So, what kind of things have you done since joining the program that have kind of helped you with that challenge, overcome that challenge?
Maybe just before going to what helped me get through the program, the reason why I originally made contact with you, Kyle, is because I was really early in my experience in ninth edition, and I was seeing your posts weeks on week doing well with Tau. It was in the time where you was running a Triptide and some stealth,
Mm.
and you mentioned a trick where this little stealthy boy did 12 points every single game for you in secondary, and I was like, hmm, there is something I don't know into that game, and I have to contact this man to understand what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
And this is where everything started, if you remember.
I do. It was the 9th edition Tau with stealth suits. It was the target relays and
Exactly.
basically popping them up and then going away and then coming in a wall of mirrors and then keep popping around there. Just one unit or 2 units of stealth suits would get me all 4 of them done without having to reveal any assets. I think also the trick with using a breacher fish, being able to touch both of them on certain deployments and just going, cool, fantastic, brilliant, and also denying primary as well. Yeah, and I think that's where it all started. And then now, we're here together talking about a really good LGT performance, so it's come a long way. But no, I know you
Exactly.
mentioned obviously that you reached out to me. For those people that obviously are curious and they want to kind of improve their gameplay with Tau, or maybe are having some struggles like Zoro's mentioned, do get in touch. I do have a free community, and obviously there is a Patreon side of things to kind of improve your gameplay on a competitive level. So there is literally a budget for everybody. I am doing this as a living, but I'm also doing this because my love of Tau and my love of coaching and improving people's gameplay. Because I think seeing some of the results has made me extremely proud. The fact that we were on a 70% win rate, and if we look at the Tau meta at the time, or the performance was only at 54, and now it seems to be dipping while we're continuously kind of pushing the bar higher and higher. So I really kind of do take a pride in seeing the results of both my students and myself, and I think it really goes to show that the program is working. And from feedback, I'd love to get more people involved. So if you are, check out the link below. There is a discount for your first payment of 15%. I'll put the link below, and also the description of briefly what you get is on the website. So the challenges that you're facing, just to highlight what you were saying before, is obviously the staging part, the applying early pressure, and resource management. So what are the kind of things that you maybe have been doing or went into LGT thinking, right, okay, now I've got a game plan? So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you're doing to overcome those challenges.
Okay, I think one of the most concrete and easy to understand example is back into a game into Votann, right? So one of the threat we identified into Votann matchup is, yes, they are slow, but if they got your crisis, they will absolutely wreck them without any trouble. And thanks to the old preparation we've done and the matchup we simulate and all the demo you are running into the Discord, I knew exactly how to approach this Votann matchup and how to use my assets and my screening, especially the Go skill, to forward screen my crisis in order to protect my most important threat. And actually, what we realized and what we planned with the program is exactly what happened into this Votann matchup. And I felt, and I came to that game with a game plan because I knew what was the threat and what can be my answers. And that brought me the game, as simple as that.
Yeah, I think something that you mentioned to me before is like obviously we're going to go through the pack that I created for the the PURETIDE program at LGT, and I think the feedback is that just having a document to help visually in terms of your game plan and to actually have a plan when sometimes you're maybe a bit nervous or you're thinking, I actually don't know this matchup. How am I going to approach a basic battle plan to then swap and change certain decisions throughout the game? So having some sort of assistance, just something that you can visually look at or refer to, has helped a lot of people. And I really like the fact that something like a simple document can really make all the difference. So would you say that that's pretty much accurate and it helped you alongside the Votann stuff?
I cannot confirm more than what you just displayed, because it especially came clutch into that third game on the Saturday where you are just knackered and can't really articulate a plan after two games, and you just really appreciate that extra help that comes to you, because sometimes you go to a game and you don't really know the faction you're going to face, but at least you know what you can do, what are your options, where you can be a menace to the opponent, and that is a really good tool to start to build a game plan around this data. So it really helped me.
Absolutely, and I think I know it sounds very corporate and very cheesy, but you fail to plan to fail, and I think that when you go to such an event like the London Grand Tournament, which is the second biggest event in the world, it's the largest in Europe. You're spending, especially for you because you came over from France. You're spending a lot of money on accommodation, travel, tickets, and then the event itself. That you're going in there with a sense of, right, I want to perform, I want to put my stamp, and I want to kind of leave this event thinking I've done everything that I can do, or walk away thinking I made a few mistakes, but I learned from them to apply next time. And I think with planning little things like just the basics of the mission, the deployment, the maps, what are you going to do, tactical or fixed, and having some sort of basic fundamentals that you're not going to kind of move away from. You're going to stick to the plan and then only adjust accordingly versus your matchups. I think little things like that you need to be thinking about when going into an event, because it will actually do you the world of good mentally, because you're having to think about so many different things. What does my opponent's list do? What threat ranges are, etc., etc., etc. That if you've not even thought about your basic battle plan, then you've got to add all that on top of the normal questioning that you need to do. So having some sort of fundamental plan will help you going into events. So that's my top advice to anyone else. So without further ado, we said this was your first tournament. Now, it wasn't just your first first major tournament. This was your first in 10th edition, right?
100%. I didn't have any mileage on 10th edition tournament before LGT.
And I know our French contingent and a lot of our European contingent is always focused on the WTC maps, the WTC layout, the teams, because that's huge. Whereas in the UK, we do obviously focus on the teams, but we are using UKTC maps. So this was your first, not only your first major tournament, which happens to be the second largest in the world, it's also on a terrain setup that you are not familiar with, that you do not get reps in unless you're playing against myself or people on our Discord. So how was it like going, just before we go into like the matchups, I just want to know your experience from playing on WTC maps to then having to go into UKTC maps. Like, how did you approach that? How did it feel?
So the really first massive difference is how you craft the lists and how you build it, because usually because I'm playing WTC format, we always craft a list with a particular role and expectation to run into a team tournament.
Mm.
And that's a massive difference versus solo, because playing solo you need to answer to a meta more than to some matchups. So that was the massive first difference. Then when it comes to terrains, oh Lord, that's a lot of difference. I was expecting to have much open maps in UKTC,
Yeah.
such as it used to be in 9th edition, but actually it was not that open
Mm-hmm.
and the angle was tight. So my broadsides, for example, didn't have that much opportunity to take angles.
Yeah.
So on that side, I was a bit surprised. And the other thing that really shocked me is how difficult it can be to hide your assets that are taking a lot of space, like physical space, like the big crisis blobs,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have that much staging area in UKTC, so you need to be extremely precise in your game plan, and you can 100% fucked up if you are not deploying correctly, because if you don't have the reach to get into the place where you can stage, the game is done.
Absolutely.
So that was really a difficult one to get right, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really good point. And obviously, for me, on the flip side, playing on the UKTC constantly and then going to WTC, I've actually found the WTC maps a lot easier to move crisis around. And I know that some people might be like, "What?" But on the WTC, you have your squares, right? And then you have your piece of terrain. But there's still this block area that you can move over without movement penalty because there is no physical terrain on all of it. It's just the L's. But in UKTC, every piece of terrain, a bar from the square big L, is fully terrain. So you can't really. You're always minusing movement with your crisis suits, or you're always having 4 or 5 inches chopped off this, chopped off that to get around it. So when you mentioned about positioning and trying to get your assets to where you need them to be, it is quite deceptively difficult on UKTC. So you have to kind of plan where you're going to go and actually pre-measure everything. So that's what I found. But with WTC, you can quite easily visually see, right, well, I need to go here and then I can go over this way and can go in diagonals rather than like forward, left, right, down, that kind of thing. So, no, it's really good to see your different, like your thought process going from WTC into UKTC.
I'd
So,
say
go on.
you have more option of movement in WTC, because all the staging area feel closer, so you
Mm-hmm.
can either go right or left, and it's going to be okay. While in UKTC you have one option, no more than that.
Yeah. So, let's go into some of your pairings. So, you did really well. I was super proud of you because you were 4-1 and you achieved an average of around about 91 points per game. So you finished on like 454 points out of 500, and you didn't have an easy run, um, and you still performed for your first major. So thinking about my experience when I started, I was like 3-2, then pushing the 4-1s, and it took me quite a while. But obviously, you just gone first major, drop mic 4-1, yeah, in the second largest in the world, which is an absolute shark fest with LGT because everybody wants to go to it because of the points. So super proud. Were you proud of your results?
100%. I couldn't have. I have my expectations were slightly lower, to be honest, because I was 100% aware that it was my first UKTC and first major.
Hmm.
So I'd be extremely happy already with 3 wins over the weekend,
Yeah,
and I got more, so couldn't be more happy.
perfect. So let's have a look at round one. So round one, the mission was Scorched Earth. It was Dawn of War deployments, and it's the burning objectives, and we mission rule Chilling Reign. So effectively, 10 VP each turn. You burn one in no man's land for 5, and then if you manage to burn the enemy deployment zone, you get 10. So to max out on primaries, you need to basically either hold 2 for 4 turns and then burn the enemy objective, or um, burn one in the middle, hold 2, get 45. So to max primaries, you need to be burning the DZ. In terms of obviously your round, you went against Thousand Suns, and you went against a very good player and a friend of mine, Paul Bridge from Vanguard Tactics, and he was playing his Thousand Suns. So round one, first super major, you're going into a big name who's well known on the UKTC, very high performer, so he's consistently doing well, and you get that pairing. So how did you feel going into round one?
So really felt like a message given to me by you guys from the UK. Welcome to London.
Yeah.
Okay, so first thing, I didn't have that much experience into Thousand Sons, only one practice game into them previously, so I knew more or less the basic of the faction, and I knew it's gonna be tough because first of all, the player had the experience, he knows what he's doing, and the list was actually tackling one of my strengths because he had, it was a combination of course Magnus and some characters, but he got many assets to deny my primary.
Hmm.
And if you remember the scenario, the deployment zone where it wasn't Hammer and Anvil, it was the opposite,
Dawn
where
of
you deploy on the,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dawn of War.
exactly,
Yeah.
Dawn of War, exactly. So he deployed quite close to my DZ at the end of the day, and I knew it's gonna be tough to go strong on primary,
Hmm.
and this is exactly what happens. What I didn't predict is how fast Magnus could come and be a threat into my DZ. So at the end of the day, the game was pretty much on the side. So he pushed with Magnus on the side, and it destroyed one of my flank, while my Crisis destroyed his flank, and it has been an absolute bloodbath during 3 rounds, and it kicked quite early because the first big damages were already in turn 2, so it has been massive. So the final score was my 78 to his 91, so it feels quite a significant gap when you see it like that. But in the last round, it could have been clutch because just by killing Magnus, I would have plus 10 on my secondary because I had like kill monsters and I mean bring it
Bring it
down,
down.
and the other was a tempting target, and obviously he proposed me to go where Magnus was,
Where Magnus was. Yeah.
but I felt killing Magnus to, I think it was 2 or 3 wounds, something like that, by putting everything I had on the table into him. So, only on a couple of wounds, it could be plus 10 to me. And obviously, I got back the primary, so it's minus 5 to him. I can't remember if he maxed the primary. But, the score could have been much closer, which is actually a real success to me, considering how strong is that player and the list itself. So it was a blast, and just a really mobile game by strategic decision like burning DZ instead of doing damage turn 4 came clutch because it's plus 10 or plus 8,
10,
can't remember.
10 points.
So really interesting decision making to just be in a situation while in turn 5 I wasn't that far to steal the game, if I can say.
Yeah.
So a really interesting game.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned there that you chose to forego doing damage and just to burn the objective in the deployment zone, because if you look at the score 91 to 78, and you mentioned there was like a 10-point swing just on cards alone for killing Magnus. So obviously prior to that, you'd done 10 points to get the extra for the primary. So and then that'd have been at 88-91. But if you had denied him 5 points in the primary, you'd have actually taken that match.
Exactly, that's the point. So the game was, I mean, I was into the game until the very last moment, which is actually exactly what we want into a 40k game.
Yeah, because I've just done the maths there. If you had denied him the 5 on the primary, and it would have been 88 to his 86. So it'd have been like a 2 point swing, like at the game. So I spoke to Paul. Paul came over and said to me, "Oh, by the way, your guy Zorro, absolute phenomenal game. Pleasure to play against, and he played it really well, and it was really tight." So he also had, by just saying that to me, I knew straight away that one decision in that game, or one bad dice roll, or maybe one draw of the cards could have flipped it. So I think even though the score shows 91-78, it's not always a true reflection of how tight the game was. In terms of something you said before, now obviously with the pack being staging, the green light bulb, whereas like your rapid ingress, and the blue staging into your objective on the top left, did he put Magnus on the bottom on the other side? Did you say?
So at the moment, I cannot see your screen, so I don't see the pack that you that
Let me
you
see
you
if it
shared with us.
shares it. 1 second. Give me a minute. Let's see if it still loads up on there. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it well. So regarding the picture you are showing, so Magnus was deployed on the, considering Thousand Sun is in the top part of the screen, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Magnus was on the right, and on the right of on the right flank, and on that flank I was having tetras in the big square and some broadsides
Mm-hmm.
behind the square,
Yeah, behind the square. Yeah.
and I hadn't enough resources to stop him, as simple as that. And my crisis were deployed left flank, ready to stage into the blue light bubble you
Yeah.
are showing at the moment. What happened that I predicted though is that he had many infantry models in the square top left on
Yeah.
the screen, and as such, because of double move and all the Thousand Suns tricks, he was able to deny me my primary on the left,
Yeah.
at least for a turn, and I knew it's happening. So I tried to protect that and to move block with a ghost kill, but he rolled high with some flamers into the ghost kill and killed it. What a shame!
That's
Didn't even
beautiful.
needed the doom bolt. That happens. So I wasn't able to move block that, and then he came over the point with I think it was an 8 inches charge, and nothing to complain about. That happens.
Mm.
But I knew it was a scenario, and
Yeah.
that happened that way.
No, I agreed. I think in this mission, the one thing that I was talking to other Tau players that were taking like a different list. So yeah, with like breach fish, is that any kind of primary denial play will come from the two big L's in the corners. So where you can see the red explanation mark here, all they have to do is if they park a vehicle right up against the wall, the guys can get out 3, move, possibly advance if they want to overload, or maybe go for a charge, and then that objective there, you're fitting around about 3 crisis suits, maybe the tip of a 4th, but then you got to be careful about being 1 inch away from the wall. So you can put like OC6 to OC8 on there, but with breaches you can comfortably put a lot on there to stop that from happening. But then if you place units on the other side, like your breacher fish and things like that, you can keep denying their primaries. So in this game, you'll find that most people will just stage some sort of infantry that are fast, or a vehicle right up against the wall to then push out and keep denying your primaries every turn. And that's just putting you to a 5, a 5, a 5. And if you both have assets, that's the game plan. But our list that we took the identical list, didn't we? So it was, I believe, Shadow Sun. It had Farsight. It had Cold Star with Kion, Cold Star with Precision, 6, 3, and 3 crisis suits. 2 units of 2 broadsides armed with all the guns, the plasmas, the seekers, the rails, the missile drones, and it had 1 ghost keel and 3
Yep.
units of tetras. And the ghost keel was armed with the cyclic iron raker and the fusion blaster. So it foregoed the traditional take a breach fish, didn't have it, was just pure aggression at that point, because that's what I predicted that was needed at meta, and it worked quite well. But looking back at it, I'm definitely thinking actually now that people are used to seeing all these crisis suits everywhere, then going into more of the primary denial gameplay with breach fish and strike teams and stuff. So yeah, I think that game that you had, you chose tactical, right?
Yep, I chose tactical because, as you mentioned it, the list was pretty much Morgan, thank you very much, if I can say. And I knew Thousand Sun, despite they have a low movement characteristic, they can actually be really mobile over the terrain. So I wasn't confident to have the resource all the game to do something like cleanse or teleport homers
Mm.
because I knew Magnus can shoot without line of sight. I knew Magnus can move 30, no
Yeah.
problem. So, in my opinion, not giving him the information about my game plan was the best thing for me, and trying to get the points where they are available, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to keep the center of the board.
No, that's a fair assumption as well because obviously yes you could go assassinate, but again, it's signaling. You've hit the nail on the head, signaling to your opponent, your game plan, and obviously I presume he took bring it down and homers against you.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is like a 36 minimum, really, because it's 15 on homers, and then 20 on bring it down because the whole army's vehicles. I can't remember in our list. Did we have a unit of 3 stealth suits or not?
No.
No.
Oh yes, yes, we got
Yes.
some stealth. We
So
got some
3 stealth
stealth.
as well. So, but again, you said that you can move 30. You can quite easily get to the stealth and just bleed your assets. So, tactical, you're also very attuned to do because you're quite fast and you can get there. And can you remember what the score was in terms of a breakdown on the primary versus the
Hmm.
tactical
For Paul or for me?
for you?
For me, I think I nearly. So I was missing 10 on secondary.
So
The point that I missed last turn,
yeah.
and all the rest was on the primary side.
Right. Okay. So it was 30 on the secondaries. So I often find that when choosing your when choosing whether to go tactical or fixed, if you can comfortably score between 30 and 34 on a mission with secondaries, then go tactical. Obviously, Tau is at a disadvantage because people will just take deploy teleport almost for 15 and then bring it down for 20, but you can actually put the pressure on and play the primaries quite well. So usually I look at it and go, ideally I want a minimum of like 34 on secondaries to feel really comfortable. So I just look at the tactical cards and go, in this mission, can I score these? Yes or no?
Okay, just to correct myself, because I put my hand to the application where I put all the scores.
Mm-hmm.
Primary I did 35
Yeah.
and secondary only 33.
Okay, so still respectable. And then you obviously got your 10 for painting. So yeah, I think overall 33 on the secondaries is good because they're getting 36. Then you just have to play the primaries. And like you said, there was that big swing that could have swung it in your favour. A lot of points. So
Yep.
good decision to do that. And it sounds like you had everything under control up until that one point where Magnus just saved himself and was left on 3 wounds. No. Then if we look into round 2, you went into Dark
Dark
Angels.
Angels.
Right. So the
Yep.
mission was Purge the Foe, Chilling Rain, and it was I think they call it a sweeping engagement deployment, as you can see here. So, what was your thoughts going into this game against Dark Angels? Briefly, what can you remember? What was in the list?
Okay, so the list was quite straightforward. They got the lion, obviously,
Yeah.
and the 10-man knights brick.
Yeah.
Really tanky. I mean, you know them. 10 hellblasters without any transport.
Okay.
They got the 10 shooting veterans. You know, the one that can shoot again if they kill a target once a game.
Yeah.
You got a few assassins as well. Can't remember exactly their name because hey, I'm playing Tau, so I'm not playing assassins. And some infiltrators. I mean, some other small units, but the biggest threat were Lion, Terminators, Hellblasters, and shooting veterans. In short.
Yeah, and he had the obviously librarian, yeah, definitely knights,
Exactly.
hellblasters, infiltrators, where the librarian goes. You mentioned, and then the assassin. Yeah, so basically, tanky pushes up, tries to bully primary.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the list was called "Still Lying About." Okay, so this mission is effectively hold one for four, hold more for an extra four, kill one for four, kill more for an additional four. So a maximum of 16 is available. And did you go first or second in this game?
Uh, I think he went first. I think he went first. Yep.
Okay, so straight away, that's really good for you because obviously he has to reveal something and then potentially opens up the killing more and getting the additional points. Because you can't get the hold and hold more in the first turn, but you can still get 4 points for killing. And if the opponent hasn't killed one, then you'll get kill more for 8. So you can actually get 8 primaries. So it's a really easy one if you go in second to get max primaries. Now we know the score was 100 to 62, so clearly you maxed out on primary.
Obviously.
So, talk us through what your game plan was going into Dark Angels.
Okay, really easy. First of all, he was playing into the Dark Angel detachment, so no advance and charge. Okay, that's a big thing for Terminators.
Mm,
So I knew 17 inches away from the big brick, I was fine because that's articulating the whole game after that.
yeah,
The game was easy for me, not in terms of the result, but in terms of plan. So I wanted to stage the crisis where you got the blue light bubble,
yeah,
and then into my go turn, pushing them and fading them into their DZ, into the yeah, that square exactly. While into the other flank, I wanted to be able to bully and to, let's say, sabotage the bottom, yes, that place, as simple as that, while some assets are screening into the middle L just to ensure I'm safe where I am.
yeah. So that effectively is, if you look at these lines and these exclamation marks in this deployment, you got to be careful of this top exclamation mark here because for shooting armies they can get a line of sight into your deployment zone on the home field, so you have to kind of tuck in here. But these blue light bulbs is where you want to stage your crisis suits, and the green one presents you a rapid ingress option. So when Zorro was talking about sabotaging this, because he has advance and charge, at some point he's going to want to put something in there, maybe like the infiltrators or some small scoring units. So they're not going to have that much OC on there. So an ability just to deny him the primary, but whilst also focusing on getting into position. So his crisis suits here, you shot and then fire and faded to then effectively fight him on all flanks, right?
Exactly. Just conceding the center of the board, not
Yeah.
giving charges.
Okay.
And in terms of the approach, I decided right away that I'm not touching to the knights
Yeah.
because they got, I think it's -1 damage or something like that, pretty much unkillable for crisis
I
suits.
think they got 4 wounds
And
each. 4 wounds
yeah,
each. -1 damage. Then they got the armor of contempt. To any other armies that's not Tau, they got cover save, but we can ignore cover. And then obviously your damage 2 when you're overcharging your cyclics is still damage 1, but you need the AP2 to actually punch through because they've got armor of contempt. So you are going to be taking some damage, but not doing efficient damage into them as well. So it's quite a hard brick to kill. So you just chose the option of just slowly whittling it down or ignoring it. What did you do? What did you do?
I ignored them because they got no advance and charge, so just 17 inches away is the zone that I need to respect.
Yeah.
And I think until turn 4, he never charged me because I did well on my movement, as simple as that. And my key focus was killing L blasters and these shooting veterans because I knew after that I can move around the board without worrying about line of sights, which is a massive difference.
Yeah, that's the perfect kind of what we were trying to say here. You basically looked at your win condition and thought, okay, I could waste all my shots and energy trying to kill the Black Knights and then get shot and be out of position and get shot by other stuff, or I'll just go for the scoring units. I'll kill his shooting and his mobility, and then I win the pressure game. I win the board control. So that is something that sometimes people will look at this big unkillable unit and go, I have to kill it, I have to kill it. Well, if you've established that it's unkillable or it's going to take too many resources to remove, ignore it. Like Zorro's mentioned, he just let the unit push to the centre because that's where they want to go. And I imagine at some point he got onto the centre for that hold to pressure the hold more. Is that what he did?
Sorry, I didn't get the question
Sorry,
there.
did he? I imagine with the Black Knight unit, they just pushed up to the centre to get on to the centre objective to then get a hold mores.
Exactly. This is
And
exactly what he did.
and at that point, you then went, well, to deny the hold mores, I need to sabotage your objective down here.
Exactly.
Perfect. So then he's got the middle, so he gets hold 1, but he doesn't get hold more because you've thrown an asset to actually deny him whilst moving around him with your fast moving crisis suits.
100%. And
Perfect.
even worse, I managed to thread the top right objective with the crisis. I can't remember if it's turn 3 or 4, but I had the old board at some point,
Yeah, so you
except that middle point.
accept the middle point. Yeah, so effectively you started the game plan, go to the top left over here, then push up, and then you're on his home field. His Black Knights are in the middle, then you've sabotaged to the bottom right, and then he's just got this 1 unit in the middle of the board, and you've got all the other 4. So you're going then
Exactly.
obviously first turn you'll have got kill more. Then you'll
Yep.
have got obviously hold, kill, maybe kill more again.
I got kill more every single round except the fourth one because
You killed
I
everything.
don't know because yeah, but except that round I got kill more all rounds.
Okay. So, and the other thing as well, which is probably something that you maybe tactically decided to do, if you kill everything too quickly, you leave yourself. If you just left the Black Knights, then you're never killing that unit. So you're leaving like a dude on 1 wound or something just to get kill and kill more later on.
Do you know what gave me kill more last round?
Go on.
I think you'll laugh about that. The lion, full HP, decided to heroically charge my broadsides.
Oh no! Oh, go on.
Oh no. So I have 4 shots of railguns, but two of them hits. So it was four hits, and I managed to pull up 2 devastating wounds out of that. So he died right away in my Overwatch. As simple as that. Kill more.
Oh,
Lion
Lionel
Overwatch.
Johnson got railgun to the face. He twitched and the broadsides are like, nope.
You
360
don't
no
get
scope.
me.
Love
Uh,
it. So,
just
go
one
on.
honorable mention in that game was the ghost kill because it literally gave me the game. I put that ghost kill forward of my crisis where I was staging because I wanted a decent bait to get the L Blaster and veterans coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it took the bait, and my 6 crisis took both squad in a single turn.
Yeah.
And then at this point, it was pretty much game done into my mind. So I just needed to protect my assets, not getting charged, and I was all right. But the ghost kill has been just clutch into that game.
Yeah, because you can occupy the space, stop any rapid ingressing, and just be the bait. And it sounds like obviously you
Exactly.
had to go for the bait because you know you're going to come out there and just effectively threaten. So you took the bait, and then your crisis suits can mop up, and that's probably at the point where you fire and faded to his big L. So a
Yes.
solid win. And obviously for those of you that may be struggling with Dark Angels, I know it's changed since LGT because now they've got a new codex, but the principle is still the same. You can pre-measure threat ranges, and something Zorro did there was like establish that it couldn't advance and charge. So 17 inches is maximum threat range, so staying 17.1. If they've got advance and charge, you just basically it's another 6 inches to that, so it's 23.1. If they've got any pluses to charge, doesn't matter for the charging range of 12. So just always measure your threat ranges, and then you can play around that. And sometimes don't always try and go in for the big kill against something that's designed to be unkillable. Clear the scoring. So good result. 100 to 62, solid win. Going into round 3, you then go against T-Sons. Now, I like this as a story because you lost against Paul Bridge, you said you weren't very practiced into T-Sons, and then bam, here's your opportunity for redemption. And it looks like, looking at the score, that that's exactly what you did. You smashed them 100 to 54. So I'm interested, what did you learn from game 1, and how did you apply it into game 3?
Okay. Really easy. First of all, I had to see that the list was different. That player was around the big Terminators, the Scarabaeus brick, the 10 man that wants to teleport somewhere on the map.
Yeah.
But I knew this combo, so wasn't surprised. And I learned into the previous game that Magnus is moving fast, and you need to be ready to welcome him, because otherwise he will absolutely murder the flank.
Yeah.
So I was going to that game really more confident because I knew what to do to win. And the game happened exactly as I predicted. My win condition was extremely tight screening to avoid Terminator screening, and oh lord, these boys did nothing into the game. They never touched me, never shot at me anyway. And Magnus has been killed by my broadsides, and Crisis turn 2. So I just was ready to welcome him, and I shot at him till to dead. As
Yeah.
simple as that. Just for the reference, the player was so upset about not being able to do anything interesting with Terminators that in turn 4, because he had to do something to with them, and he had no offensive option, he had to do an objective in the like area of denial in the middle of the board. He had no places to play them,
Right.
nothing to do with them. So it was an absolutely screening game from my tower at this point.
Yeah, because if you look at the map that here, it's the search and destroy, so 9 inches away from the centre, the corner deployments, and as you can see, this one is a very tight terrain setup. So yes, you've got these two open areas here, which are perfect for rapid ingressing, but if you look at the angles and stuff, you can comfortably cover a lot of ground with screening effectively. Tetras, are really good here. Putting them against the walls. Your Ghost Keel can obviously screen somewhere out in the open. And you've given him nothing. And then your crisis suits can stage. The red explanation marks, equally though, the opponent can also stage for combat, so you've got to respect that. So, if they're positioned here, they can move again, and get into angles or charge. So you've got to be very careful of when you're submitting units to go and hold primaries. So for me, you did the right thing. You screened, didn't give the option for the Terminators to come in and do their damage, and then he, poor lad, had to go and get area denial with a 10 occult Terminators, Scarab occult Terminators, and then he just shot them to bits, right?
Yeah, I was feeling really sorry for that man because, we all have this one big asset that we like to see doing something big into a game, and he just had no play for them, just nowhere to teleport to kill something. It was terrible. And again, the goal skill came massive because it dragged Magnus out of position. Didn't die actually to Magnus, which is I've been quite lucky on that.
Yeah.
And then when Magnus is out and if the screening is done properly, you just need to score your points and wait for him because he had no interesting places to stage because as you can see the two middle points are out of position for a Thousand Sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to play defensive. I didn't even need to go into his DZ or something, just playing defensive, and got the large win. You know. I think the final score was 100 to 54.
100 to 54. And this mission was nice and simple. Did you go first or second?
I can't remind actually. It's in the app, so if you give me like 2 seconds, I'll tell you.
No problem. While you're looking at that, go on.
The opponent went first.
Right. So with this mission here with Tau, nice and simple. You can get 5 VP, but you can only get a maximum of 10. So you can hold 2 objectives 10, but at end game you get 15 because you can hold 3 and get 15 on top of your normal scoring. So this mission you can actually get 25 on the last turn. So going second in this mission is really good.
Yeah.
Going first, you just need to put the click Deathcon for a turn earlier, and you'll still get 25 if you've done the work and damaged the units. So it's really heavy on the end game scoring. So 25 out of 50, so you have to get 25 for 4 turns. So, 3 turns. Easy. 5 and 10, 10, done. You get a 5, you get 2 10s, and 25 at the end, max primary. And you went tactical as well, right?
Yeah, I went tactical again. That's a learning that I really liked into the previous Thousand Sun match I got. Tactical served me well because considering how fast it can be, and I mean it's easy for the Thousand Sun to threaten anything on the map because with 2 CP they can shoot out without any line of sight, with terrific shooting from Magnus and some characters as well. So I just felt it was the right play for me, and it served me well because I did 40 out of 40. So
sounds like the tactical side of things went really well for you, and you went tactical all
100%.
tournament, whereas I went fixed for 3, and then tactical. I actually went tactical once. It was 4 fixed and 1 tactical. So the game 100 to 54. Your key points for anybody would be obviously screen is key, and baiting out Magnus and then just going for the go turn. But you got to respect their movement, right?
Exactly, and I have to say the cards have been nice to me because in that game only two cards that I drew were not good.
Okay.
Turn 2, capture enemy outpost. You don't want to have that, especially in a defensive mission. And then I got bringing down when Magnus was already dead, so not feasible for me.
Okay.
So, but however, everything went well, and just applied what we knew from preparing the event with you,
Yeah.
with the knowledge of that scenario is defensive. Wait for the last turn to score half of the primary. So that just worked really.
Absolutely, because the top tip here is focus on the flanks, ignore the center. It's a death trap. There's too many staging points to threat overload you. Hold out for endgame primary. Little things
I
like that is
think
what I was talking about in terms of the preparation. Just putting little things like hold out for endgame, having the actual endgame scoring and the this is what you can do. Just sometimes when you're in game, it's really sometimes easy to forget these little key things until it's necessary. Whereas having something there visually saying, remember end game scoring, remember end game scoring, it just helps keep you on track for your plan.
I think that that's knowledge of you can be patient, etc. is really it's simple, but it's a massive change into the approach that the program brought me.
Yeah.
Because a year ago I would just have go go go. I need to kill things, and then we'll see for the points later on. While now then we consider that just by reading the scenario you can get a lot of value, and just having the knowledge that playing defensive isn't compromising your chance of winning, and actually it's raising it. It just game changer because you are comfortable not to push at some point.
Yeah, I think it always makes me smile when 40k players mention reading, because one thing that we historically don't do as 40k players, including myself, is read. It's like, oh yeah, I've only half read this rule. I just made up the rest, or it was similar to last edition, but actually it's changed, and you're like, oh, that could have been big. It's like, who knew that actually reading the full sentence or the full paragraph can actually help you? Yeah.
It's pretty much like the hop back in devilfish stratagem we have as Tau. Who knew that it's forcing opponent to do a battle shock test? I had no idea because I was just going back into my devilfish. Fine.
Yeah, there's so many little things that if you just read it, even like cleanse is a perfect example. The amount of times I had to explain to people, I was like, I'm cleansing. Okay, but you need another unit to cleanse. I was like, no, I can cleanse 2 objectives with 1 unit. And they're like, what? And then if you read it, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, I didn't read that. I was like, yeah, neither did I until I actually sat down and fully read it. So, yeah, it's funny. But your speak of the devil, in terms of Votann, you mentioned it earlier, and your round 4 was against Votann, and it looks like a super tight game here. 91 to you, 89 to Votann. The mission, priority targets, so same endgame scoring of the previous mission, 15 at the end, 10 VP a turn, and the deployment is the same as the second mission. So, right, talk to me about that.
Really tough. I still feel that game. Really. I feared the army first because I think they have all the guns to down Tau army.
Mm-hmm.
They really outgun you in my outgun Tau in my opinion, but we get the movement. So it's a really tricky game that can swing both sides in my opinion. But lucky for me, just a week before the event, we did a demo with you.
Yeah.
That was exactly on that mission, Tau versus Votann. So we failed as a community really hard into that demo because that was, failing to learn. It's a really
Yeah.
good process, but we knew what can be the key to win that game. And I just applied the key, and my big learning of that demo was I need to screen forward my crisis unit. So because you really want your crisis to stage into the middle blue light bubble you have on your screen
Yeah.
on the objective. But if you stage here, they can pretty much come from rapid ingress with a unit and gun you down easy, like really easily. And you cannot cut all the angle because the brick is too big. So I knew my win condition was to get my ghost kill in position, ready
Yeah.
to die, but just doing its screening effect for a turn. and that worked because then I was in a position to deliver death into my turn 3.
Deliver the killing blow, my
So
friend. Killing blow.
ex exactly. And even that, even putting all together to get in that position, it's not giving you the game, just helping to stay in. Because in my turn 3, I had a really interesting moment, decision-making thing, where that six-man crisis, after killing thing, could do 10 points because I drew some cards, and by taking the enemy deployment primary, into the square, was giving me 10 secondary points, okay?
Yeah.
And I had this point where, okay, if I send my crisis brick there, yes, they'll be dead next turn, but it's doing me 10 points and force all the opponent army to get back to kill that brick. And I took the decision to do it, to take the point and to force back all the army, because then I was just removing all pressure it got on the map. Because keep in mind, the vote on list was 6 Sagittals, so
Yes.
he was pretty much everywhere, shooting and threatening every places. So really tough to get back out of the pressure he puts.
So I think we're going to kind of
And
just focus a little bit on the kind of voting. So like, I think at the moment Votann doing very well, and there's a lot of people that I'm hearing like, oh, I just get absolutely demolished. Tau can't win against Votann, and the win condition is that we have speed, but we cannot be stupid with our kind of decisions. We have to be very, very, very cagey, and we have to wait for the opportune moment and lose assets, screen very well, but make sure that the crisis is safe at all costs. Now, the list that I ran against you was obviously 2 land forts, but this one has a lot of faster pressure because it's got, like you said, 6 Sagittars, and it's got the 2 units of 10 warriors, which will split into 2 units of 5 on each squad. So it'll be 4 units of 5. They've got sticky objectives. They just move forward. The Sagittars scout move, like our Piranha. The scout moves 6, and then they obviously can move 12. Then they can get out, just like Devilfish. So they have the same speed, and can just go, cool, deny primary, or here you are, I'm going to just push up all my little buggies, and then I'm going to threaten you next turn. And with their tokens that they put on you at the beginning of the game, +1 to hit, +1 to wound against 4 targets. So I presume he chose your crisis suits broadside, or did they go for ghost kill?
no, they went for Ghost Kill,
Ah, right. So
which I think
crisis, crisis,
was the right choice.
yeah, crisis, ghost kill broadsides.
No, Crisis, and Ghost Kill.
Right, so all your crisis and ghost kill. Yeah, because they knew that
Yep.
you were going to use your ghost kill as a screen. So, the game, 91-89. That is so tight. That's like a single coin flip. It's a single primary denial or a single card that didn't go your way. But when I came over and looked at the game, you were, I think I saw a cheeky rapid ingress with Farsight.
Oh yeah, I was ready to mention that point.
Go on, go for it.
I think Farsight and his boy has been absolute MVP in that game. Because in opponent turn 2, I rapid ingress on my primary. Okay, so let's make it easy. My opponent in his turn brought the, let's say, the Terminator equivalent on the bottom flank on your picture. Okay,
Yeah,
and everything I had on that side was my stealth into the square, screening as far as they can.
yeah,
Okay, and I had only 4 OC on the point with my Tetra.
yeah.
It meant that I had potentially losing first my stealth and the primary because of the consolidation
Yeah, so he would
piling.
rapid ingress here with the Terminators. You had stealth suits here. You had 2 Tetras here, and he was going to
Yeah,
charge and consolidate onto the objective.
exactly. And what I've done is that I rapid ingress Farsight right on the primary, out of charge range, obviously,
Yeah,
just to say, okay, bro, you can charge that stealth. Fine, you'll kill them, no problem. But whatever is happening, I'm not losing the primary because I will out OC you on that point
yeah,
first. And if you come, I just murder you because Farsight is good at murdering in close combat and short range. And this is what happened. He charged my stealth. He killed them. Poor little stealth. You did your job. And he didn't manage to put more OC than me on the point because he didn't have enough OC. As simple as that. And far side plus 3 crisis just murdered the whole team.
Yeah, and I
And
think
and really by a margin. I had a lot of margin on that activation because I didn't even need to roll the last crisis suit.
and this is the thing. So this is something that I was really proud of you when you did this, because actually me and you, I was going against Nassim with his Eldar, and replace Hearthguard with Young Khan, and that's exactly what Nassim did to me. And I rapid ingress my far sight with his three bros on the objective. I was like, "Do you want to come here? Come on, Young Khan." And the Young Khan went, no, I'm teleported away when it killed something else. So using that rapid ingress, because obviously the play when it comes to competitive game is deny primary wherever you can. Always look for an opportunity to deny someone's primary because it's a 5 point swing, and then you're into position and it forces your opponent to come back to deal with that threat. So with you rapid ingressing, going, I'm securing my primary as a priority, and then I'm going to delete your unit that you submitted, flips the initiative back to you when the opponent's going, I'm going to take this, clear stealth, tag tetras, deny primary, perfect, cool. You go, no primary denial, and your unit's now dead.
And that became my one of my favorite tricks. I think I just did it for first time into a Tau Mirror we played together,
Yeah,
like the defensive rapid ingress, and I was like, oh god, that's working well because then it's putting the pressure back to the opponent because it forces him to do decision, and I really like that defensive rapid ingress even more than offensive one,
yeah,
have to say.
and these things, it sounds like to anyone listening that maybe, oh, I've never thought about that, but this is the kind of stuff that we go through in the program. We kind of look at all these opportunities. If an opponent did X, Y, and Z, what can you do to retaliate? And it sounds quite cheesy, but a lot of the Tau lore is once you lose the initiative, the battle is lost and you retreat. So it's always keeping that initiative in your pocket and looking at how you can do it and how you can keep the pressure on the opponent rather than them putting you under pressure. I find in my experience, when somebody's dominated the game and got me under threatening me on so many different points, and I've lost initiative, I can't get myself out of it. I can't look for a win condition because there's too many win conditions in my opponent's favour. So rapid ingress is perfect for this, and keeping your assets like your crisis suits and deep strike, keeping them honest. At any point, rapid ingressing a crisis suit unit with a cold start that can go 18 inches can just flip the pressure onto them. Farsight, rapid ingress, and then you can get within 9 to add +1 to wound. Again, such a big damage multiplier. It did just go cool. And 3 crisis suits and Farsight just deleted a 10-man Hearthguard with a character.
Yep.
And they're -1 to wound. They've got a 2-up save. They could do void armor. And you just go
I went
rerolls.
yeah I went all on that. I put Tetra rerolls +1 AP. Obviously, I got the +1 to win from far side, and
Yeah.
and you just murdered any elites things with that.
So it's like that the GIF, the meme. So I just got busy blasting. So I just started blasting. Pow removed. So yeah, 9189, really good. And you basically put everything that we talked about into practice. So proud of you. And I could tell both of you as well at the end of that game, you were just like, well, it was a good game because it meant that you were both having to play perfect because it was only 2 points in it.
Yeah, it was just honestly a single roll going away or the other could have changed the game.
Yeah.
But hey, honestly, winning or losing when you have such a good game into a nice opponent, I mean, the moment was intense and really cool. So it was a really good one.
Nice. Right. Last round.
Oh god.
Round 5. Take and hold. This one, no end game scoring, maximum 15 turn. So every objective that you hold is 5 points. Up to a maximum of 3, obviously, 15. My points in this one is the same thing deployment as the search and destroy. You've got staging points for days, really good for them to stage, and you're going into a combat army, World Eaters. So,
Oh yeah.
okay, talk to us. The game was 85 to you, 66 to the World Eaters. but they didn't hand it to you on a platter, did they? You had to work for it.
It has been extremely difficult. Till end of turn three, I was in a really bad position. Just for a bit of context, I never played World Eaters Intense before that game, but I knew how they operated in nines. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the way you have to approach the matchup is not that different because they still move really far and really fast first turn. If they go first, they still do the pre-game move and all that shit. They can catch you 30 inches away.
Mm-hmm.
So the deployment stuff didn't change into World Eaters and the win condition either. So I was praying to go first. Really, I was praying, but I deployed ready to go second. So I needed to have some sacrificial units like my stealth in the way of them, and some tetra into the middle L, stuff like that, just to be ready to welcome him. And thanks God I did that because he went first and he didn't manage to catch me out of position.
Yeah.
But he was putting constant pressure out of my shoulders during the three first turns, and I was feeling bad about that because he got a lot of assets and many things to tag me,
Yeah.
so that was really difficult. The broadsides got clutch because turn two managed to kill Angron just on their own with a cheeky fusion blaster shot from the ghost skill as well. And thanks God it never came back to life. Helped me a
Yeah.
lot.
Because for those of you who don't know, Angron can obviously they can roll dice, and he can get back up. He can come back on. He's got Khan, Lord Invocatus, the pre-game moves, Jackals, just for kind of like cheap bodies, Corn Berserkers, Corn Berserkers, Corn Berserkers, Rhino, 8 bound, and then 2 War Dog Brigands from the Chaos Knights. And obviously that gives him some shooting pressure and some tough bodies as well. So it's basically high pressure, MSU, staging, combat, throw at you, and then also they have stratagems that when they die an objective, they make it sticky. Their blood basically goes, objective is mine. So it
Exactly,
forces the tile player to come out.
and the map was on the World Eater side for the
Perfect.
three first turns because turn two and three I did only 5 on primary
Yep.
because it was everywhere and I had no place to be safe and I just didn't want to get tagged on my crisis.
Yep.
So it took me time to remove everything. But the bad part of that is I went tactical again, and on that game the cards didn't went well for me.
Okay.
So I summed up quite a significant gap in terms of score in the few first turns. But when we achieved the third round, because Crisis does Crisis things, and because Angron never came back to life, he was running out of resources,
Mm-hmm.
and I managed to just my wave of crisis then took the board back, and then the game flipped into my side. But the three first turn has been horrendous, not on the damage, but more on the fact that he was everywhere, threatening all the places, and I had no place to move around.
Yeah, because I think you're hemmed in terms of the deployment. You're inclined to put your crisis suits like here, but the problem with that is if you don't screen in the front, you can get a first turn charge off with the scout moves and stuff. So you have to push back. You can't allow him to do that. So you either got to screen with loads of assets here, but even if he goes in and kills them, he then piles in or consolidates into your crisis suit. So you've got to be really careful on how you position them, making sure there's like 4 inches away from the back of your models, that kind of thing. So because you've got to factor in where they can charge and the pile in, and so you need to be really safe with that. So you're effectively playing the game for the first turn like round here. So I'd say from like there to like here, and then he's pushing up, staging here, staging maybe here as well, staging in here, and then just waiting for you to pop out. So you have to then kind of work for your angles to shoot and clear the assets. So what did you have in reserve?
I got 2 3-man crisis because I wanted him to respect the fact that I could come somewhere and just wreck things.
Yeah.
And I got my 2 broadsides team on the board to welcome the Angron because Angron was placed clearly to go on the left flank where my ghost skill was again the perfect trapped. He came for it, and my guns were ready to welcome him, and that worked.
Nice.
Um, Farsight did Farsight things again, and quite. I mean, we never mentioned lore into competitive things, but he 1v1 Karn, the betrayer. So it was just quite cool to see two important characters in the lore facing each other and getting Tao winning a melee thing. So hey, she, it's for me this time. And yeah, pretty much the CAB's profile just made it for me and put all the damages I needed when required. And into all my games over this LGT edition, for the on that why I really needed to take the risk of splitting the shots, and this is something Tao are discussing quite a lot. Should I split my shots? Should I be confident getting the -1 to hit penalty because I designated something else with the tetra, blah blah blah. But then when you run the math, a commander plus a crisis can absolutely, even with the penalty, wreck the 5-man wall detail thing. So it's fine to divide your shots to gun down more units from your opponent, and just getting the max efficiency out of your guns. And that brought me the game.
And look, I think you just held out very well, and you realised. And against World Eaters, for me, it's let them push. Don't give them anything valuable to charge, but give them something that they have to come and deal with, and then you can start deleting their assets. So resource management is really critical because you have to trade up. You have to keep deleting their speed, but don't give away too much board control. Otherwise, if they just hide and then keep their resources back as well, you are then going to start losing. You need to delete their assets before your turn 3 gets in, or at least get into a position with a rapid ingress or a deep strike to keep them honest.
There is one thing that I approach differently than what you just mentioned. I consciously decided to be into a place where my opponent could charge my 3-man crisis, but I ensure that if he charged me, I got the line of sight, because I was just in need of my overwatching things working.
Yeah.
And 3 crises will wreck five marines charging them.
Yeah.
So I decided, on the bottom right objective, I was on the right part of it, bottom right, yeah, somewhere like that. Just I was like, "Come and charge me, bro." He was on the right side of the map, and he charged me, and he died.
Yeah.
So sometimes you want to be visible.
Because if you do the maths there, you've got 36 shots in total because 39 shots because you got 3 crises at 27. The cold star at 12. That's 39 shots. So you're getting between 6 and 7 sixes statistically, and that is then becomes 6 goes to 12 because the sustain hits if it's turn 3. You'd be wounding on 2, so 10 wounds, and then he's got a 5-up save because you're AP 2 with overcharge. That'll be 7 failed. That's 14 damage. So even if you get 6, you're killing a unit 5.
Yeah.
So you go, here's my unit, it's done the damage. Then you come out, I overwatch, I die. Cool. I've done damage in 2 turns, I've traded up. And forced you out of position, because then he has to put another resource out because he's just lost 1 to overwatch. And if he doesn't put another resource out, then he's not charging. Because that unit's dead.
To be fair, maybe this is because Tau were not that popular at this point, but people were not expecting, or at least this player wasn't expecting, to lose a full unit of Marines into Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't prepare the second asset to command threat. So I took the point, I traded up and kept the point because he obviously had no shooting. He's still a world eater. So it was extremely efficient trade into that position.
Yeah. So solid win, 4-1. And what I like about this is that your first game was a loss, so you kind of thought, right, and you just sailed, you submarined it effectively, but you kind of kept your composure, you kept your win conditions in your head, and you just won, and then the final win as well. So you lost your first one against a very good opponent, but then you continued to stick to the plan, and you get your 4-1. You finished Now, the LGT did something different this year. They did it in terms of opponent's win percentage was the second caveat outside of win, loss, draw. So your win can opponent's game win percentage was 49.2, which let you down. So you finished 116th out of 748 players at your first major tournament, and it happened to be the second largest in the world. Proud of the result?
100%. Again, I couldn't expect more. It's just awesome to perform that well into a first massive tournament like that, into a turn setup that I was not I was new on that one. So no, really it was perfect. And losing to Paul Bridge, man, that's fair. I won't complain on that.
Yep. And I can't remember exactly how many points, but you were only like a few points behind me in terms of battle points.
I think, yeah, 3 points,
Three
something like that,
points.
really close. I
Yeah.
was because I had no idea that Games Workshop that LGT followed the Games Workshop opponent win rate things
Yeah.
for the ranking, and I was like, oh shit, maybe I'm fighting with Kyle into the overall placement, and I
Yep.
was counting your score on all
Yep.
games, and damn, 3 points below.
I know it was the same with me. I was because they've always done the battle points as a second kind of caveat, but obviously with this one they've taken into the fact that actually who you play factors in a massive part of your I suppose win path. I've always I always have a tough pairings me every single tournament. I like to be challenged though. I played TJ Lanigan, who's second in the world, and then I played Nassim, who's my eternal rival now. I always play him. So, like, my win percentage of my opponents was 62.6. But then a lot of other people were playing, like, the French team captain, I can't remember his full name, but
Olivier?
Olivier, that's the one, yeah. And it was just like, there were so many big names there. It was insane. So overall, I think you did yourself proud, and you were battle points is really important because I have this I suppose philosophy in my head that I always focus on the behavior and the outcome will look after itself, and the behavior element in 40k is the points that you bring on the scoreboard because points win games. So try to forget about damage does X, Y, and statistics. Maths can fail, but your positioning, how you score your points, is in fully in your control. That's why I tend to favour fixed over tactical, and obviously the primary points is key to winning games. And smart players will realise, well, if I just deny this primary, regardless of what I'm shooting, I win the game by 4 points. Because I get drop you by 5, I win by 1. That's all I need to do. Turn done, over to you. So little things like that. So if you focus on how many points you can increase your score by, so let's say if you're a player that's only scoring like your 50s or your 60 points, do little things to try and get to the 70s, try and get to the 80s and 90s. Do it as a glide path, small steps. What is it that's costing you games? It's not your damage, it's not your, maybe it's your list building, maybe you need to think about more scoring to help you, breach your fish, things like that. And then just focus on getting your points to grow and grow and grow, and then you will eventually get into a position where you'll go 4-1, maybe 5-0, maybe you'll podium. I always struggled with getting past that 3-2 because I was going against big names all the time, and I was just getting my ass handed to me. But when you actually start to look at why these players were beating me, it was because they were focusing on points rather than just the damage. That's my biggest learning curve, and I suppose my biggest top tip to anybody that wants to improve their performance. So speaking of which, one thing I want to kind of end on is obviously, first of all, thanks for taking time out of your day to join me and do this thing for our audience. It's really appreciated, and thank you very much. What would you say is the most valuable lesson that you've learned whilst being part of the program, and also what have you enjoyed about the community aspect of what the PureTide program offers our students?
Wow, what a difficult question because I learned tons on the program, Kyle.
Yeah.
Um, so if I have to pick one, I think it's the fact that we can experience all together with all the TTS things that we are running on the program,
Mm.
and the fact that I can just see things in action is just showing me how I should play my assets, because most of the time, I mean, I'm into these players that are not reading stuff, but I will remember them when I see them in action. And I like to come back to something that we studied in ninth edition because it was extremely meaningful for me. Um, we were, I mean, you set it up in place some scenarios,
Mm.
and one of them was how you can address the guard situation and how you can kill things, charge them, and not lose your assets. You remember that lesson, maybe?
Yeah, the Imperial Guard one where I was like, you're now pressured. What do you do?
Ex
What's your win condition?
exactly. That was this one. And before that, I was really struggling into guard because they just was hitting extremely hard when their codex came out. And my very last game in ninth edition was into Gward, and I put that in practice, and suddenly all everything that we were doing in the program really the sense of everything we are doing was illustrated into that single moment, because I applied exactly the tricks that we saw into the TTS demo that we ran, and then all the success that you have. I mean, far side killing tanks and the commander with the punch, smashing stuff, etc. All the nice story that you were able to tell us after your tournament. Then I was able to do the same, and that was clutch for me. I realized that the program is bringing value,
Yeah, I
and since
think
then, obviously, because I practice more, because I have time and I have all the lessons and everything that we are doing together, my placement is way better, and I managed to put myself into the condition to win games. While previously, because my move phase was not correct, I never went into this situation. So the all my game style changed thanks to the program.
and
I
I
hope that
think
answered the question.
yeah, it does because it answers both parts. Because I think the enjoyable part of Tau is when something clicks in your head and you're like, oh, actually now I'm confident and now I can screen properly and now I know about positioning. You're actually enjoying not just get busy blasting, but you enjoy knowing that you're not just going to get tabled, or you're not just going to get, oh, this charge is now pivotal, I win the game, and you can't play. So it's all about perfecting your skill, getting your deployment correct and your positioning correct, and then you have a way more enjoyable game. Maybe
And
not for
one
your
more thing.
opponent, but it is still, a skill that you need to perfect and practice with.
Yeah, and one more thing that came clutch into some games, maybe more in nines than now, but the behavior needs to remain, is Tau can have benefit to charge as well.
Hmm.
And this changed me some games. For example, I was practicing recently with Breach of Fish and other stuff to deny scoring. And actually, fuck hell, Breacher can charge, survive, and steal primaries, and that's perfect, that's fine. And just use every single bit of movement that you can have into your favor is actually something that the program taught me.
Movement is king.
Because exactly, movement is king.
Movement is king. And doesn't matter how many guns you've got, if you can't get optimal targets with your guns, then, well, you're not using your unit that you've designed it in the list for. So for me, movement, positioning, all that kind of things that are sound very basic, but they are so crucial. That's what we kind of teach. And I think the one thing for anybody like listening in, I've done enough of selling my soul, but what I would definitely say to you guys is that I really do pride myself in building this community, but I also pride myself in the way that I approach welcoming people. So when you come onto the program, if you are interested to sign up to the Pathfinders, the Shaspray or the Chassel, for those kind of people that want to really go to their top game when it comes to competitive play, you'll have a welcome call with me. If anybody is on the fence about whether they sign up, because everyone has life priorities, there's lots of other options for patrons and Discord memberships, and they seem to be everywhere all the time. DM me at Commander PureTide, and I'm more than welcome, more than happy to actually welcome you and have a chat with you and discuss some of the options. So, in terms of the rest of the interviews I've got lined up, I've got a few more planned. We're going to kind of aim to do one every week with different players at LGT. Zorro, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. It's always good to see somebody going from, should we say, relatively new to play in Tau, and then over the course of this year, you're now 4-1 at a biggest super major in Europe, and I think you should be super proud. And it's not just down to the stuff that you've kindly said about the program. It's also down to how you've applied this as well. So I think your results speak for themselves, and the fact that I can see you 454 out of 500 battle points means that you've taken it on board and you've applied them. And I really like to see my students actually grow and use the lessons that they've been taught and put it into practice. And like I said, you're only 3 points behind me, mate. So, this is not bad, man.
Yeah.
Not bad. So, Zoro, have a lovely day, mate, and thank you very much for joining. And for those of you listening, there will be a link down below for the PURETIDE program. There will be a 15% discount for until the end of November. And like I said, get in touch with me if you want to know more. But thank you very much for joining, and have a really good Halloween. And I'll speak to you all soon on the next interview. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.